This is Dave Wirt with your Ag Market News Weekly Summary. This week we had 2,645 head of cattle compared to 4,702 last week and 3,201 a year ago. Compared to last week's market, slaughter steers sold $2 to $3 higher, Holsteins were about $1 to $2 higher, and heifers sold about $3 to $4 higher. Slaughter cows sold steady to $1 higher. On breaker cows, or boners and lean cows, sold steady. Bulls were about steady to weak. Steers high choice and prime are 126.50 to 129. Choice was 120.50 to 125. Select steers were 115 to 120. Holstein steers high choice and prime are 108.75 to 111.75. Choice were 102.50 to 106.50, and selects were 94.50 to 98. High choice and prime heifers were 122 to 125.75. Choice were 118.50 to 121, and selects were 111.50 to 115.50. Cows breakers were 68.75 to 72.50. Boners were 66 to 70.25. Lean cows were 61.50 to 66.50. Average dressing bulls were 82 to 87. Feeder cattle, there was lighter runs this week in Pennsylvania with the holiday coming up, and we didn't have quite as many this week, so I had no trends available. Steers, feeder steers, medium and large frame 130 to 500 pounds were about 130 to 140. 5 to 700 pounds are 129 to 140. Heifers in the same range, 3 to 500 pounders are 115 to 126. 5 to 700 pounders are 113 to 125. And bulls, 3 to 500 pounders are about 129 to 156. 5 to 700 pounders are 118 to 130. Calves this week, it was 2,210 compared to 2,891 last week and 2,499 a year ago. Compared to last week, bull calves were about $5 to $10 higher, and heifers sold steady to about $5 lower. Number one Holstein bull calves 95 to 120 pounds is 110 to 130. 80 to 90 pounds were running 95 to 112. Number 2's 95 to 120 pounds was 95 to 111. And number 2's were 75 to 95. Number 3's running about 65 to 85 cents. Number 1 heifers, 84 to 105 pounds was about 120 to 145, with number 2 selling at about 80 to 111. Hogs this week, there was 1,139 compared to 14.20 last week and 12.55 a year ago. Compared to last week, barrels and gilts were about $1 to $2 lower. Sows were about $2 to $3 lower. Barrels and gilts 49 to 54% lean was 67.25 to 72. 45 to 49% lean were 61.50 to 65.75. 3 to 500 pound sows were $50 to 55.50. 5 to 700 pounds are 61.25 to 65.50. Boars 300 to 900 pounders are about $13.75 to $22. Graded feeder pigs this week, we had 609 total. There was nothing available last week. We had 282 a year ago. Number ones and twos, 40 to 49 pounders were selling at 79 to 111. 50 to 59 pounders were 60 to 94 cents. 60 to 69 pounders were 86 to 92. 70 to 79 pounders, roughly 70 to 86 cents. Number 2's 40 to 49 pounders were about 60 to 89 cents. 50 to 59 pounders were 75 to 88 cents. Lambs and sheep, there were 1,762 compared to 2,541 last week and 2,750 a year ago. Compared to last week, lambs were mostly $5 to $10 higher. Sheep were about $5 to $10 higher. Choice lambs 40 to 60 pounders are 124 to 134. 60 to 80 pounders are 118 to 138. And 80 to 110 pounds are 114 to 134. Good ewes were running about 70 to 80, and utilities were about 60 to 70. Goats, there was 2,637 compared to 3,559 last week and 3,814 a year ago. Compared to last week, kids sold about $10 to $20 lower. Nannies and billies were about $10 higher. Goats are sold by the head with weights estimated. Selection 1 kids 40 to 60 pounders were $105 to $136 a head. 60 to 80 pounders were $112 to $130 a head. 80 to 100 pounders were about $118 to $140 a head. Selection 2 kids 40 to 60 pounders were running about $98 to $114. 60 to 80 pounders were $92 to $116, and 80 to 100 pounders were about $96 to $116. Selection 1 nannies 80 to 130 pounders were $120 to $148. Heavier nannies up to about 200 pounds were $126 to $162. Selection 1 billies 100 to 150 pounders about $162 to $200. And heavier billies up to 250 pounders were $195 to $290. Wether Selection 1s 100 to 150 pounders were $178 to $220. 150 to 250 pounders are $138 to $250. Selection 2s, 100 to 150 pounders, are running about $138 to $198. This is Dave Wirt for Ag Market News. Have a good week.